Welcome. I'm Kathryn Davis, a speaker in the Qigong Global Summit, and I'm here to introduce you to the host, Sharon Smith, so that we can learn about Qigong for bone health. Sharon Smith, a 40-year practitioner of the Taoist internal arts, has been teaching for 37 years in New York City. In 2017, she created and directed the Immortal Sisters Conference, a historic gathering of women committed to returning to the Tao. Sharon has hosted the Shift Network's Qigong Global Summit for 2 consecutive years. She is also a photographer and award-winning filmmaker. And I have to say that I am just so pleased to be here with you today, Sharon. It's
Thank you.
wonderful.
Thank you so much. I'm thrilled that you accepted my invitation to interview me.
Yes, because I have actually been aware of your work for many years. And I just think that you have been really a wonderful presence for healing here in New York City. But one of the things that I realize is that many people who are watching this may not really think about or understand the relationship of Taoism and Qigong. And I thought that might be an interesting place to start because for a lot of people, they heard of the Tao Te Ching, but they don't really understand what it means in relationship to healing.
Thank you for that question. It's a really good question. One of the things that captivated me initially when I started studying Tai Chi 40 years ago was the philosophy of Taoism that expressed itself through movement. And at that time, not many people were talking about Qigong, but I did have a teacher. He was Korean. His name was Don An. He passed a few years ago. He did teach some Qigong. And actually, Don An was the person who introduced me to Mantak Chia, and Mantak Chia introduced me to TK Shi. These were my main teachers in my early years. And the philosophy of Taoism is so much related to nature, staying in the flow of change. We're living in the dimension of change. We can't expect to hold on to anything for very long. And the concept of yin and yang, which related so much to breathing practice. And so, in the early days of Qigong was considered to be a kind of a shamanic practice. And, the people who developed it, the ancient guys, most of them were guys at that point, I believe, although it's hard to know, looked at animals for inspiration. So they had this connection to the natural world. And Tao means the way. And one of the things about Qigong practice is to merge yourself with nature, to align yourself with the way of nature. And for me, that is just a big plus.
Well, it is a big plus. And I know that you're going to be talking about bone health and you're going to be offering us some of those healing practices. But when was it that you realized that Qigong was really something that could substantially transform our bodies and transform our minds and our spirit? And you've had this journey from Tai Chi to Taoism to Qigong. So tell us a little bit about that journey.
Thank you for that question. Yeah, I started out practicing Tai Chi because I was a photographer in those days. And I had a lot of physical problems that were related to that profession. I had a lot of congestion in my third eye from looking at the world through a camera. It wasn't a digital world then. You had this big thing, you had a camera bag full of stuff, you had shoulder issues. Whenever you traveled, you had to travel with, a suitcase full of film and lights and the whole deal. And I had a lot of physical problems from that. And um, it was the late 70s, and I met someone who said, you would really appreciate Tai Chi. So I found this teacher and I immediately knew, oh, this is going to help me. And after a couple of years, I actually grew a few inches because the compression in my spine and the hunching over and, all of those skeletal problems started to just open up. And I don't know if I really grew, but in terms of measurement, I was a couple of inches taller. And that was kind of remarkable in my mind. And, over time, I started to realize that, and then I learned some Qigong practices, and then I was sort of captivated by that. And I started to notice that my disposition had changed. I was a really complaining, angry young woman with a lot of issues. And, I mean, not to judge myself from those days. And I'm very compassionate towards myself as a young woman because I had things that I needed to work out. But I found that the Qigong practice really kind of like smoothed my rough edges a little bit. And over time, I saw that it just continued to do that. And at the time when I received the diagnosis of osteopenia in my early 50s, I knew the bone health practices. I'd studied them, but I didn't really go for it. I really didn't embrace them in the way that I needed to in order to really see the results of doing a practice like that. So
And
I know that if you really embrace the practice, that there's a lot of healing that can happen.
well, that's wonderful. And I agree with you. And it's wonderful when you can bring your own experience to it. And can you speak to how Qigong can help with things like whatever pain you may have been experiencing and what that condition really entails and the shift that you experienced as a result of really committing to the practice?
Yeah. As active as I was in my, mid 30s, 40s, early 50s, I still had bone loss. Well, not actually, it wasn't bone loss yet. It was, osteopenia is considered to be pre-osteoporosis, but I still had that. And it was a big shock to me, like, how can this happen? I practice Tai Chi, I do yoga, I practice Qigong, I walk, I do all these things, and I still had this. And it was really something that was in my genetic history. My mother had it, all of her sisters had it, my cousins have a lot of bone loss. It's really part of the ancestral lineage that I come down from my mother's line. I don't know about my father's line because I never met my grandmother on that side. But so, I really had to accept that was something in me. And if I wanted to change that, I had to change the epigenetics around it. You know, I had to change the internal environment so that that could heal. So, you know, I did some research. I found out that using a vibration machine was really good for bone density, and that, you know, NASA uses these vibration machines with the astronauts when they come back from space because they lose bone in a place where there's in no gravity. So they lose bone and they need to build that bone. And so I found that out, and I incorporated that with a 45-minute practice several times a week, which included some of the ovarian breathing techniques of retrieving creative energy and moving it through my channels. It included bone breathing, which I'm going to teach in a little while, and also some tapping practices where you hit the bone. I have some tools here that I want to show people. And, you know, a lot of people, they look at this bigger thing, which is a wire hitter. This creates vibration in the bones. And they go, oh no, I can never do that. Well, that's okay. Get yourself a wire whisk out of your kitchen, or go buy one, maybe a bigger one than this. And the metallic vibration that goes into your bones, it still works. So that's another tool. And the reason that this is useful is that when you tap your bones, and it's important to say that it's not about hurting yourself, it's about stimulating the cells to do their thing. And it really does work. And so anyway, so I incorporated the vibration machine and a 45-minute practice 3 days a week. And I just did it religiously. And at the end of that time, I had increased my bone density by 7.5%. And I was no longer considered to be osteopenic. And I can't promise you, of course, that this will happen to you or anyone else, because, you know, everybody's different. But this is my personal story, and it really worked for me. And it's important because so many people, as they get older, they have bone loss and more brittle bones. And one of the things that is kind of shocking is that statistics show that over the age of 50, I think more than half of the fractures that people have are in their hips. And especially women have this propensity to lose bone in the hip, in the lower back. And the other part of it that is important is that people start to not feel confident when they're walking. And when they don't feel confident when they're walking, they often trip, or, you know, they don't see the curb, or, you know, whatever happens. And then when you have a fracture like that, it's very depressing. You know, I mean, you ask somebody, you know, falls, bone fractures prevent people from expanding out. And, you know, in the Taoist tradition, or in Chinese medicine, we should say, bones are related to our kidneys. And what's the negative emotion that's in the kidneys? Fear. So it's all kind of interwoven, the bones, the fear, the ancestral lineage, because, you know, this is our Jing. It holds the chi from our ancestors. So
Yeah, and I agree with you. This is a really big problem, and it once women begin to have these issues, they become more isolated because of their fears and their concern about moving through the world. Can you speak to maybe how who can use this? Can it be someone who, like you were just getting diagnosed, or maybe it's someone who's further along and more advanced, and they want to know
It's,
how they can improve?
it's as I said, everyone's different, but the practice that I'm going to teach today is bone breathing, which everybody can do, and we all need to get very good at it. And we should start when we're younger. You don't want to wait until you have a problem. I mean, this is one of the beautiful things about Qigong practice is that if you really engage it as a lifestyle, you can stop a lot of problems from developing. So I encourage anybody to do bone breathing. And we all need to get very good at it because our bones are alive. And a lot of people just think our bones are just calcified cells, but there's energy in our bones and in our bone marrow also. And we need to just connect with that level of our being because it's real and there's a lot of vitality there.
I so agree with you, and I appreciate that perspective. And I know that we're going to be going to your demonstration. I'm really excited to be able to witness and share that with you. But can you also speak to sort of the need for Qigong practice in our worldview, in the perspective of people who, during a time of great challenge, really have to pay attention to their health in so many different ways?
Thank you for that question because it's really, I think, a theme that's running through this summit of, the potential for transformation that is not just personal, but it really is global in its possibilities. And, we often think that taking care of ourselves is, taking the right vitamins and eating good food and walking in the fresh air. Yes, all of that is great. But what about every day making a very strong connection to your energy and to the vision of your health? And I just think it's such an important ingredient. And it's been kind of painful to watch how during this pandemic, there's really no discussion about this level of self-care. And I think it really speaks to how our healthcare system is really unable to manage something like this.
Mm. It's very true, and I think that people have become very reliant on a system that is quick to feed us drugs or surgeries or really radical interventions. At least from my perspective, it's radical when there's something that's very wholesome and holistic and in harmony with nature, such as Qigong practice. But really, have you seen the growth of Qigong? Have you been able to see the impact from when you first started to now? Because to me, it seems promising.
Definitely, definitely, definitely. And I used to say about 10 or 15 years ago that, okay, all the baby boomers who've been doing yoga, who've injured themselves, at a certain point, they're going to come to Qigong because it is a mind body discipline which satisfies that longing to be a whole person. And it's gentle enough that anybody can do it. You can be in bed with an illness and practice bone breathing. you know uh, you can be a child and learn the animals, the 5 animal forms, or the 6 healing sounds. You know, I find that, you know, this is like a particular level of Qigong practice that I think is proliferating around the world. And I think it's going to have a big effect, but it's going to take more time.
Yeah, that's why this summit is so valuable, because people are really able to experience the practice and
Mhm.
learn for themselves through the knowing of their own body. So it's really very, very powerful what you've been participating here and presenting to folks. What do you hope to happen in coming years with your work? I know that you're going to be focusing on the bone health for the summit, but you do many forms of Qigong healing that involves emotional restoration, physical restoration.
Yeah,
Where do you hope seeing your work going as you go forward, helping people to heal themselves?
that's such a good question. Well, there are many things that I'm interested in doing, and one of them, and I don't know when I'm going to get to this, but it's kind of an interactive ebook that has little videos, audio meditation, photography, text, you know, something like that. Um, I'm looking forward to creating something like that that has the potential to be something that people could really use. In terms of my personal teaching, uh, okay, here it is. I'm looking for some young people that I can download everything that I've learned, because, you know, it's not been all for me, you
Mm.
know, and I have wonderful students, but I'm looking for some younger people. You know, I started when I was 27, and, you know, in China, people start this work when they're children. And I would really like to be able, you know, in my elder years, and I'm going to be 70 this year. In my elder years, I would like to be able to just give it all away. So whoever wants to come and get it, I'm here.
Well, it strikes me that these two ideas work together, because you're talking about a younger generation that is acclimated to media and quick bits of information. So if your book, with the interactive photography and the video combined with your teaching, you might have something really special going on there that can actually reach the young people who might not be paying attention. So that sounds wonderful, but I'm really excited to learn a little bit more about bone health. I don't know if
Okay.
you want to go into that now, the bone
Yeah.
breathing.
Yeah.
That
That
would
would
be
be
really
great.
great. Yeah.
Okay. We're going to do the bone breathing now. And I want you to imagine that you have nostrils on the tips of your fingers and the tips of your toes. And these nostrils are going to breathe in the fresh, clean, healing energy of the universe. And you're also going to exhale through them, releasing any cloudy, gray, congested, stagnant energy that you might be holding in your bones and your bone marrow. So we're going to do 2 different kinds of bone breathing. The first is called venting, and the second one is condensing the energy into the bones. So I will guide you. You're going to do 2 breaths to the destination point that I will mention, and then we go to the next one. Now, where are your hands here? You can do this practice lying down with your palms up. You can do it sitting down. You can have your hands like so. You can have your hands on your lap, palm up. You can also have your arms in this position, which is what we're going to do if you are standing. For some of you, this is going to be challenging. At any time, you can change your hands to this position, but you're still going to be doing the same thing. The fingertips are the nostrils, the chi goes in and out through the fingertips, up and down, in through the bones, out through the bones, like so. Okay, here we go. So if you're standing, we're going to lift our arms Tai Chi style. So on an inhalation, you're going to raise your arms, bend your knees, and on an exhalation, you're going to come to embracing the tree. And then you're going to turn your palms down and you're going to open your arms at a 45-degree angle and spread your fingers. Close your eyes for a minute and imagine those nostrils on the tips of your fingers and your toes. And we're going to begin with the fingers. We're going to inhale through the fingertips to the wrist and exhale all the cloudy gray congested energy. And again, inhale through the fingers, through the bones, all the way to the wrist, and exhale. And now we're going to bring the energy up from the fingers to the elbows. Inhale and exhale. Again, fingers to elbows. Inhale and exhale. This time, fingers to shoulder blades. Inhale and exhale. Again, inhale and exhale. This time from the fingertips to the cervical 7 at the base of the neck. Inhale. You can open your eyes or close your eyes according to your feeling, and exhale. Again, inhale through the fingertips, all the way through the bones of the arms, scapula to the cervical 7, and exhale. And you're going to keep that pattern going through your arms, fingertips to cervical 7, like a program running in the background of your computer. You've turned it on, it's working. You don't have to be responsible for it, it's just going on. And now we're going to bring our attention to the feet, to the tips of the toes. Inhale from the tips of the toes to the ankles, and exhale. Again, inhale from the tips of the toes to the ankle joint, and exhale. And now from the toes to the knees, inhale and exhale, inhale and exhale. Now from the tips of the toes to the hip joints, inhale and exhale. Letting go of cloudy, gray, stagnant energy. Inhale and exhale. Now to your tailbone and sacrum from your toes. Inhale and exhale. Again, breathing in the fresh, clean energy of the universe, and exhale, cloudy, gray, stagnant, old, murky chi. And one more time to the tailbone sacrum. Inhale and exhale. Now we're going to go from the toes to meet the energy of the arms at the cervical 7. So arms and legs, breathing, inhale. Feel those inhalations meeting at the cervical 7, and exhale. Out through the fingers and toes. Again, inhale and exhale. Now we're going to go up from the cervical 7 all the way into the skull bones. Inhale. from the fingers and toes all the way up into the skull, and exhale. Again, inhale and exhale, refreshing your bones and your bone marrow. And for this last one, we're going to inhale, and as you go up the spine, let the energy move around into your rib cage so that your entire bone structure is full of fresh, clean energy. And then exhale out through your fingers and toes. And 3 more like that. Inhale into your entire bone structure. And exhale. And 2 more. And last time. Now we're ready for the next breathing pattern. Now that we've cleansed our bones, we've let go of cloudy gray energy inside the bones and the bone marrow, we're going to inhale that fresh, clean energy. And as we exhale, we let it condense into the bones, saturate them, nourish them, just like the moisture in the early morning settles into the earth. Inhale fresh, clean, healing energy into your entire bone structure. And then as you exhale, let that energy condense and saturate your bones and your bone marrow. And 3 more like that. Exhale, saturate, condense, nourish your bones. 2 more. And exhale, condense, saturate. And 1 more. Inhale. And exhale. And if you're standing, you can slowly release your hands down. And just take a minute and feel the aliveness, the vitality in your bones. And then you're going to step in with either leg. You can brush your chest if you feel any constriction there, and gather the saliva in your mouth and smile into it, sending love into your saliva, and swallow it down to your belly and rub your belly in both directions. Okay.
Well, that was just gorgeous. I love that practice. I've never actually done that one, and I could just feel the energy flowing through the body. Can you tell us a little bit more about the program that you're going to be sharing as part of the extra offer for this summit?
So yes, I have this special offer, which is called Awakening Qi. And it's 3 sessions, including the inner smile, 5 animals, Qigong that I learned at Wudong Mountain in China, and something I call Qigong Brain Gym. And it's really a collection of movements that I've learned from different Qigong forms that have to do with coordination, balancing the left and right hemispheres of the brain, and also activating the really juicy, happy chemicals that run through our body, the neurotransmitters like oxytocin and serotonin, and I can't think of them all right now, but that's the purpose of the Qigong Brain Gym.
Beautiful. I certainly look forward to that, because it seems that you're really giving people almost a complete practice, a little something they can do every day and learn and take the next step on this journey of Qigong. And I'm wondering if you have any lasting thoughts or little bit of advice you want to leave all of our viewers with regard to Qigong, what you're offering, or the summit itself.
Thank you, Kathryn. Well, I think this summit is amazing. I'm so excited about it, to talk to all of these amazing Qigong practitioners from all over the world. And it is truly international. So keep tuning in. You're going to learn a lot and be inspired by people's stories. In terms of getting in touch with me and things that I'm offering now, I've been doing these online, I call them 9-day Qi activations. And I have been doing them once a month, but I took a few months off, but I will be doing at least one this summer. And if you are in New York City, I do have one or two live classes that I teach outdoors in the summer at the Christopher Street Pier. And if you go to my website, which is Sharon, TAOSHARON.com, you can sign up for my newsletter and you'll find out all about it.
Oh, that's wonderful. Thank you so much. And a lot of gratitude for all the work that you're doing here with this summit. Very, very important. Thank you so much, Sharon Smith.
Thank you, Kathryn. It was a pleasure to have an opportunity to be interviewed by you. So, and don't miss Kathryn's session either. It's really good.
Thank you. Well, first of all, I want to thank you so much, Sharon Smith, for joining us today. And I'm encouraging everyone to take a look at your work. And I also want to thank all of our viewers for joining us and participating in this amazing event of the Qigong Global Summit for 2021. There's a lot here, and please do partake and enjoy it all.